Rosters are in for the Friends of Eternal Team League. We've got a new set on the way, and most importantly, we have our first Eternal Open of the 2021 season right around the corner. Let's talk about it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to FECast, the official podcast of the Friends of Eternal. I am one of your hosts, Sunyveil, and with me, as always, is fellow Worlds competitor, Stormblessed. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming on. It's like the build-up right before the climax of a movie or a piece of music. And boy, that was a weird thing to say out loud. I've been describing too much music for work, I suppose. All right, but we've got a tournament this week, less than 7 days away, and we have a new set that is also less than 7 days away, and we're going to have our first matchup for the Friends of Eternal Team League. How are you doing, Stormblessed?
I'm doing very well. I am surprised but pleased that we get a new set. The set will be called Stormbreak, or Stormblessed if I get it incorrect. Little disappointed. It does mean that Sunny was right there. Very slight disappointment there, but outweighed by just the joy of having a new set. It's coming out just a couple days before the Open, which is odd. Although I'm assuming it's just because it is only 21 new cards. If it was a full big set, I presume Direwolf would not put out a full big set 3 days before a big tournament. I think this is probably cutting it close to what I would like on a competitive level, but I think it's on the edge of being okay in my books. But yeah, so as of the day of this recording, there are 15 cards spoiled for the new set Stormbreak, and we will be discussing those when they're all spoiled on Tuesday in a upcoming future FECast. Today we are going to focus on the classic TNE updates, and then this discussing the rosters for the FETL, the Friends of Eternal Team League.
Yeah, and just to voice my opinion on the matter, I actually love it when a new set is released right before a tournament. I think that it makes it so that there's a lot of pressure in order to figure out the right builds and be able to execute on that. So like net decking becomes a lot more, I mean, its value is still there, but you have to be judicious as to what you net deck, because usually when you net deck, you can be reasonably sure that the list that you're picking up is good. But if it's, something new, if it's a new strategy or something like that, if it's using new cards, you're not necessarily sure about that. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic. So I love that they're releasing a new set to shake things up right before the tournament. All right, let's talk about the Tuesday Night Eternal update. We had 2 Tuesday Night Eternals this past week.
Before we talk about this week's set of Tuesday Night Eternal, I would just like to give a shout out to another fellow Eternal podcast, the Misplay. They did an excellent behind the scenes 2-part podcast, although I currently have only listened to part 1. The part 1 featured interviews with Telemachus, the main impetus behind the excellent set of events, and SRFS, our editor and tournament organizer, man of many hats, man of many names, SRFS, and other important community member. Two behind the interviews that were very interesting to listen to. And then finally, a 10-15 minute recap of the entire event. It was all well done, good production, and I would recommend checking it out. The link will be in the description.
Yeah, I listen to the Misplay every week, but this cast was very well done, and I would love to see more casts from them that are event coverage in this way. I mean, we often talk to the winner and the strategy and whatnot, but they really had a lot of interesting tidbits about like the teams and where they came from and whatnot. So that was a really great perspective, and I enjoyed it a ton. So go check it out. All right, let's talk about results. That's what this podcast is for anyway. So we had Pleasing Sky 4 win the first Tuesday Night Eternal with Sling, a deck that you, me, and Doc28 all talked down in our last episode. But I think all of us pretty much stand by our statements. I think this build was better than the builds that we saw previous to this tournament of Sling. Mm-hmm. But I still don't think that it's the deck to beat or anything.
Yeah. A powerful but inconsistent deck can easily take down a tournament, right? That's the key of being inconsistent. If enough people brought Sling to the tournament, then someone's bound to do reasonably well. And in this case, someone did do reasonably well. Obviously, I'm not going to discredit Pleasing Sky's skill with the game, just that, the deck is inconsistent. You can sort of see the inconsistency of Sling pan out if you look at the top 8 from both Tuesday Night Eternals for the Throne events this week. There was only one Sling deck that showed up, so you can see, right there that either not many people end up bringing it because they feared its inconsistency, or it just had some problems with it. Pleasing Sky ran well, played well, and took home the crown that day.
Indeed. Rounding out the top 8, we had Xenon Mask by Roshi, which looks like an even deck. Another crazy Roshi invention that I can never comprehend how these decks work. We had TDK taking third with Feln Mill. We had a Hero Kira deck piloted by the Rock and fourth. We had Elysian piloted by F300 Zen. Feln in sixth place, another Hero Kira deck in seventh place. Oh, sorry, I should talk about this Feln deck played by Lord Perth in sixth place. This is pretty much the Elysian deck, except it's still running Kroll. It's basically like it's trying to play the old Elysian deck with Kroll, but now that Kroll's nerfed, you have to play Shadow, so it's playing a Shadow form of it. And I don't know if we talked about this publicly, but I remember talking about this deck with some people and thinking like, yeah, it's just not as good as Elysian because you don't get cards like Wump and Master Conjurer, which are really powerful. But it's definitely a really interesting take, and I thought that was a pretty cool innovation. Do you have anything to say about this Feln deck?
Yeah, on ladder you'll see tons of Feln everywhere. Even Feln, Feln Mill, just Feln is everywhere on ladder, and that's in part because my standard motto has been that Feln is bad, but Felrock is busted. Jarl Feln allows you to sort of play busted Felrock and actual good cards in a sense, like Jarl, because Jarl has proven themselves to be just one of the. I mean, basically at this point, it's panned out that every card from the Ascending Cycle is playable except for Clodagh. So poor Clodagh.
Worst Yeti Cookmaster.
just really sad Clodagh. It's quite tragic because literally every other card in the cycle has panned out to be playable on some level. Different levels of playability for sure. Jarl might have proven themselves to be on top, but none of them have proven themselves to be bad except for Clodagh. So, I think this Jarl Feln deck is a good take on the archetype.
Well, something else to keep in mind is that Fire is just like the least represented faction by far, which is a far cry from when Fire was the most represented faction by far because of like the power of Torch, basically. That might be part of it, but probably even if Fire was like heavy Fire was popular, I don't think we'd see a lot of Clodagh.
Even if Fire was popular, Clodagh wouldn't be very good. It's interesting, you'll see more Fire on ladder potentially because there'll always be Stone Scar decks and stuff, but even then, there's not much Fire aggro going on right now, right? We are heavily in this sort of like weird mid-range meta. Various mid-range types, if you want to, use labels or whatever. Labels are always kind of tricky in card games, especially in this community that loves to argue about which deck gets which label. But if we're in this weird mid-range meta, Fire is just non-present. So maybe the new upcoming Stormbreak will tip the scales to put things into more of Fire realm, but we'll see. We'll discuss that next week more.
Note to SRFS, please put the time to tip the scales sound effect in there. I will send it to you.
Time to tip the scales.
Okay. Rounding out the top 8, Frafa with Hero Kira and Ambivalent Thoughts had a shadow-based Xenon deck. So that's the top 8 of the first Tuesday Night Eternal. That was last Friday. On Tuesday, I played in one, and I mean,
I also finally played in one, but I had to drop after round 2. I had other things to do in real life, and I also finished my match in round 2 really early, and I was like, oh god, I got things I have to do, and if I might have to sit for like 40 minutes, and I'm like, I can't sit here for 40 minutes while I have things I have to do, like going out and doing errands. So I had to drop, unfortunately, but it was fun to enter for even just a couple rounds. I would recommend checking out future Tuesday Night Eternals. They are a good place to go. They are likened to Friday Night Magic, and I'd say that that's a pretty reasonable comparison.
Okay, so the reason why I couldn't continue talking and just broke out laughing is the name of the winning deck by HeyYU is Sunny Kira, because it's a Hero Kira deck that I posted or at least was playing with. I think it was posted on Warcry, and it's just card for card the same deck that I was playing. So HeyYu won. A Romanova, who was like 2 cards off, took second with Hirukira. I took third place, also with Hirukira, the same deck that I posted. And Collector was 4th place with Yetis, which is definitely surprising to see Collector play that.
Didn't Collector qualify for Worlds with a Yetis deck? Or did Collector get second with a Yetis deck?
I do not know. I remember Skycrack Chonkers, and I remember...
oh yeah, Skycrack Chonkers is a different deck. Yeah, Collector's done pretty well with Skycrack random decks, apparently. Because I remember he got second place with Yetis at one point.
One of the other ones was Shimmer Pack, right?
Yes, that was back in 2019. That was the 2019 season.
Yeah. Anyway, going on, the 5th place deck was a pretty crazy Shrine to Carve It deck, piloted by Red. I beat Doc28 in the quarterfinals, who was on Elysian. TDK also made the quarterfinals with Elysian as well. And finally, the breakout deck of the tournament, kind of, like if you can call it a breakout deck, is a Relic combo deck piloted by Apple Chips. This uses relics and then clear the way and then fair exchange in order to trade your road clears.
They're called? Yeah, I think they're called road clears. Something.
Well, they cost 9, and you can trade them for like a Karos in your market or something.
So there's two. Okay, let me just say there's actually a number of versions of this deck. There's sort of a 3-faction version, and there's a 4-faction version. The 4-faction version is, I think, is more pioneered by Almost, where the 3-faction version is more pioneered by Apple Chips. The 4-faction version gets access to Left Robotomy, and you're playing all 8 Entomb relics, and you get more bang for your buck. You get more ways of interacting with your relics that you really want to sacrifice. The key part is that, and the 3-faction deck plays cards like Azerite Prixis to try to turbo it out as quick as possible. You're playing cards like Realign the Stars to pick up your combo piece. So you have 8 ways to get your combo piece, and then you have...
Wait, don't you also have Jander Dovid?
Yes. Okay, so yeah. The 3-faction deck plays Jander. I don't think the 4-faction does. But that's not specifically a tutor, right? That can give you other amplified cards too. But yes, that is another key portion of the 3-faction version. And then you also have 8 ways to combo with your Clear the Way. You have 4 Reweave, which is how you actually get Kairos, because Kairos is in the main deck. And then you have 4 Fair Exchange to get cards like Azendel out of the market. And so it's a crazy deck. The day after it happened on TNE, like the next day, I think I played 5 games of Eternal, and they were all versus different versions of Clear the Way decks, and they were all versus different opponents. And then I closed the application for a couple hours.
Yeah, so it's definitely something that a lot of people are trying out, and we'll see how much of a metagame it will end up being. And it's really cool because we all knew that Clear the Way was a powerful card.
Yeah.
And it was just a matter of how it's best used. And these are really interesting applications with Fair Exchange and Reweave.
Yeah, so just sort of like a metagame going into the Open before the new set. Obviously, the new set will have its changes, but the main 3 staples I see as part of the metagame are Kira, Elysian, and Feln, with other decks like Xenon and like Yetis and like this Clear the Way combo deck also will probably have some prevalence. But ignoring the upcoming Stormbreak mini expansion, we'll see if that, how much impact it has. But ignoring that, those are the 3 decks that I would be the most concerned about facing in the Open. That being said, I think the Open will be exceptionally diverse. I think it'll be a very, very diverse Open. I don't think any one deck will have, more than 10, 20% tops percent of the metagame share, if that.
Maybe not percent of the metagame, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a top 64 that was just flush with Hirukira. I mean, I've played the deck a ton. We'll talk about this more in our next cast when we see the new cards, but I've played a ton with the Kira deck, and I'm just like not afraid of anything at this point. Like, unless I get matched up against Batteries, who's a very good Rats player, I just don't care. Like, Vara, don't care. Sandstorm Titan, don't care. Tokus, have answers to it. Any sort of like combo deck, I've got Face Ages. It's just absurd what the Kira deck can do, and I wouldn't be surprised if it just utterly dominates the big tournament coming up.
I guess I wouldn't be surprised if like the top 64 was like 40-50% Kira, but I don't think the day one will be 40-50% Kira. I think that day one will be diverse. Although, the metagame has seemed to get maybe slightly less diverse since last I checked in, like truly trying to think about it on ladder. So maybe it is more Kira now than it was then.
Yeah, certainly not going to be helped that 3 of the top 4 places are Kira decks
No.
and basically the exact same list. Okay, let's talk about the Friends of Eternal Team League. The sign-up period has ended, and we have our 12 teams that are going to be participating in the FETL. I'm going to go over each team, who's on their roster and who's on their bench. We have, for a few of these, I put out a call for if anyone wants to write a description for their team or like send in an audio clip. I didn't get very many responses, but I got a couple, so we'll be going over those.
If any teams would still like to send in an audio clip or a description of the team, we can try to fit that into future FEcasts when applicable, because that would be cool to also spread it out over time. Because if we got all 12 teams with a 5-minute segment, that would be a long FEcast to go over. So it might even be nice to spread it out if other teams would like to send things in.
Well, I think we're just looking for like 1-minute segments.
That's fair.
All right, so the first team on our list is Team Invoke Lethal. Their players on their active roster are Carnage, Junkiz, Phoenix, and Apple Chips, and Killer King. And on their bench, they have Pogd, Camomilk, and Mojo Blojo. Pretty solid team. I mean, Apple Chips won the most TNEs out of anyone, right? Winning 3 in the last season, also being a competitor at Worlds. And of course, I always talk about him, but Camomilk on their bench. Camomilk has been 1 match away from winning a spot at Worlds himself, but also has done a lot to help other people do well in tournaments. So this is a nice, solid team we have here from TIL.
Yeah, I don't think any of these teams have like bad players. I think every one of these teams has a chance. If you look at any of these teams and you look at their rosters and you look at the history page, the excellent job done by SRFS once again, you can see that all of these names are represented. All of these teams have good players represented on the history page. So they're all proven in that capacity.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next team is the Snowfort, and Stormblessed, why don't you take over for this one?
Yeah, so the Snowfort is it was joked somewhat in the Discord, in the TBC Discord, as TBC B team. Basically, we voted on members to be represented in the A team, I guess. And what happened is that myself, Collector, M Gallop, and A Rank were easily the top 4. With Collector, A Rank, and myself, obviously, already having been at Worlds, being, good bets to bet on, and then Gallop just being, a solid player and deck builder and drafter, got the 4th slot. And then what happened is literally every single other member of the team was tied in like an 8-way tie. So we had to do a second poll to determine who would get that final 5th slot and reserve slot for the main Barbarian camp team. But team the Snowfort is the sort of is the counterpoint, obviously, to the Barbarian camp, and it is composed of Frafa, Mail, Avion, the Overmaster, Ambivalent Thoughts, with Black Ice on the reserve pool. And then team the Barbarian camp is myself, Collector, M Gallop, A Rank, 13 batteries, with GT in the reserves. And yeah, I like my team. I think that they have a good shot at doing well in the team league.
I'll tell you what, your team, the Barbarian camp, has 3 of the people that I want to face the least in like a top 64 bracket. And Collector, A Rank, and batteries. Like I am just terrified of playing those players. All right, so we couldn't figure out what stands for, but Team CSB is next. I put in a field that says, what's your team name? And it was just CSB. So I couldn't figure it out. I think it will be a mystery forever.
I still stand by it is team coming second, basically, which makes sense. They picked up Ilya K, who did get a 2nd place, so he is in fact qualified to be a part of their team. Unless they give me a different team name. It's either that or Cool Story Bro.
I like the Cool Story Bro. All right, so on their active roster is Gurga PM, ZDCH, Portich, Keith Peleg, and Ilya K. Ilya K picked up by a team finally, so maybe the posts about teams ruining competitive Eternal will end, but maybe not, And they have Mana Barbs in reserve. So this is a very strong team. No Worlds competitors. Oh, no. Portich qualified for Worlds, right?
No, I think I beat Portage in the top 8 of the draft championship.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. So I guess that's basically coming second, right? I
Yeah,
didn't even
kind of.
realize that. I mean, I think that YurgaPM and ZDCH are among the two most consistent players in Eternal, even though they haven't qualified for Worlds yet. So this is definitely a really scary lineup we have here.
Yeah, and obviously Keith Peleg, is one of the few people that under the new system of the consistency invite or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
is one of the few people that would actually have qualified for Worlds the quote unquote hard way of getting second place twice, getting the double top 4. So not a slouch there either.
Next up, we have the Misplay Teal Trapezoids. The Misplay is sending 2 teams. I think that Teal Trapezoids is their A team, or their like major league team, or however you want to call it. It has Colacomo, Watchwolf 92, I'm So Bad, Pyrese, and Magikarp, with Parmalee and Cry Lorenzo in reserve. Colacomo obviously played at Worlds. Watchwolf 92 is someone who's participated in many Pro Tours over in Magic the Gathering, and someone that I know personally. And of course, I'm So Bad took second place in the ECQ that Colacomo won, and Paris and Magikarp have been around the game for a while.
Yeah, I think Magikarp is known as a deck builder who builds impressively elaborate decks. I think that's what they're known for, right? They're known for being an interesting deck builder.
I think of Magikarp as being someone that plays a lot of Stone Scar aggro, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think Magikarp was most active when I was least active, so I think that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've met Magikarp in person. Very nice dude.
Oh, cool.
Their second team, the Misplay Red Rhombuses, has Soapy Elo SRFS, our editor, Gato Sujo, D-Dub, and Kinanada, with Melantin in reserve. Yeah, some good members of the community here, of course, with Gato Sujo and Soapy Elo making the Misplay podcast, and SRFS, of course, doing so many things that we are very grateful for.
Yeah, I think Gato Sujo is actually pretty high up there on the Eternal History page as far as number of day 2s in the 2020 season is concerned.
Here's what Parmalee sent me with regards to the Misplay. The Misplay has evolved from a podcast of 2 to a fully fledged Eternal community. Their website features Eternal articles, podcasts, comics, and now the weekly Misplay Meta report tracking over 1,000 games a week in both Throne and Expedition. The team consists of 13 members who foster a supportive and constructive environment for each other to improve their play and compete at the highest possible level within each individual members' means and capacity. Sportsmanship and participating in the community with dignity and respect are equally integral to the team. For the purposes of the FETL, the Misplay has divided itself into 2 teams to give all members the opportunity to participate. Next up, we have Eternal Titans, which has Doc28, who, of course, won the TNE Invitational and also qualified for last year's Worlds. Gozu, who, of course, had the legendary 28-0 run in the day 1 of the ECQ. Almost, the deck builder, Lion to Zion and Iron Man, both solid players, and a bench of Finkel, Tobo, Nikowaba, and level 13 David. And this one's pretty shocking to me. I mean, maybe they're not active as much anymore, but both Tobo and Nikowaba have previously played in Worlds, and they're just on the bench of Eternal Titans.
Huh. I mean, to be fair, Eternal Titans has a pretty stacked team, even still, right? I mean, Gozu, almost Doc, Iron Man, Lion to Zion. I think they've also done well at ECQs, and if you ever face them on ladder, you know that they're often in like the top 10 in any format. So I mean, they just had a bunch of great players to choose from, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Speaking of a lot of players to choose from, next on our list is Team Eternal Journey, which has the deepest bench of any of these teams. So their starting 5 are Dub Mike, Ash Acer, Ip Longno, Robot Jellyfish, and Goei Chanhung. And Goei is someone who has seeded very highly into a lot of tournaments, but not quite broken through. I think of the people that haven't broken through, Goei is probably one of the first ones that comes to my mind when I think of people that are probably going to start accumulating top 8s and top 4s soon. And their bench is Alexandros Gray, Stormguard 798, Cal Shadowstep, Dizzy Sick, John Holio, Darth Herman 2, Jedi EJ, Sarkanin, also known as Darthanos, and Celtic 7 Guardian. And Stormguard actually sent me something to read about this. So here's what Stormguard has to say about their team. A passionate collection of skilled Eternal players from around the globe, Team Eternal Journey may have their origin as a draft podcast, but are looking to put up spectacular results across all formats this season. Known for the charity present tournaments that they run and their active community present, they're looking to one-up their game from last season by sending multiple players to Worlds this year. Although always friendly and ready to help out, when it comes to crunch time for tournaments, Team Eternal Journey is perpetually ready to bring both the spice and the fire. Very nice. So that's TEJ.
I like that. That was cute. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Lots of great community members on this team for sure. All right, next up we have WeStream Games, who also sent 2 teams. Their WSG1 team has WSG Ron, The Burgund, WSG Vakan, Pleasing Sky 4, and Spifferific, with a bench of I'm Straight, I think that's how it's pronounced, and Adequate Finch. Some good players here, names that pop out. I think WSG Ron is another player that's like had a reasonable amount of success, but never quite gotten to, the last couple rounds of an ECQ. And I think I recognize Vakan as someone that's top forward a tournament. And the Burgund, of course, is the legendary control player. And Pleasing Sky 4, in addition to having subbed to me on Twitch for multiple months, just took down the first TNE of the season.
Yeah, and you left off Spifferific, who is also, I mean, all of these people have been great players, but you find them building random decks, and they beat me up on ladder a bunch. I'll tell you that much.
WeStream Games' second team has Prakalakin, Saris, WSG Otto, Reason, and Sifu Danny as starters, and TCG Cthulhu and Tombs on their bench. I know a couple of these names. Saris won a TNE and was part of or maybe was just part of the Invitational. I know they were part of the Invitational. And Reason actually beat me in the top 8 of a challenge, so not an event that qualified for Worlds, but went on to win the whole thing with like Bracano Kira when that was the only deck in Expedition that one time.
Oh my goodness, you just reminded me about friends in low places, and just, oh my goodness, just that card.
All right, moving on. One of the teams that I think a lot of people expect to be one of the front runners this season, and that's Team Rankstar, is up next. I actually got a promotion from Notorious GHP to read about TRS, so I'm just going to go ahead and read that. Winning the 2020 World Championship and a second place in 2019, TRS presents its 2021 roster. For active players, they have the Boxer, hoping to top his 2020 World's top 8 finish. Noverb returns intent on reaching his 2019 World status and then some. Sluffer is here to show why we want to poach him for a year. Sluffer previously was on Seek Power Gaming and is now on Team Rankstar. And Notorious GHP is here to ... captain and get carried ? I've got nothing snarky. I think Notorious is the one that wrote this one. And finally, Popo Tito. Most people would be happy with the giant check and a second place at Worlds, but not Popo. I mean, he enjoyed it, but anything other than first isn't going to be enough for him. Expect Popo Tito to play something different from the rest of the team, then outperform as per usual. And then their bench is going to be Captain Teambro, a player with a ton of untapped potential. Teambro looks to show that he's more than just one of their best deck builders. Jez2718, straight from SPG, looks to show that he's more than just a Nostrix one-trick who can do math reasonably. Shy City Shogun, one of their lesser-known players. Shy City has shown to be one of the most improved players last season's. As rededication to Eternal, Shy City doesn't plan to be benched for long. And finally, the 2020 World Champion, Lights Out Ace, who is already queued for the 2021 World Championship, so it makes sense that they might not be, trying their hardest in every single tournament. So being already queued for the 2021 World Championship, LOA has earned his bench ride for the season before flexing on the competition. So thank you, Notorious, for sending that in. Just to recap, because I know that was long, their starting 5 are Notorious, Popotito, Sluffer, the Boxer, and Noverb, with Lights Out Ace, Captain Teambro, Shy City, and Jez on the bench.
I mean, yeah, this is Team Rankstar. They speak for themselves. Their accomplishments speak for themselves in many ways. I mean, Lights Out Ace alone, right? I mean, they have some of the best players in the world, right? And of course, friend of the podcast, the Boxer. Yes. That's always nice too.
I mean, you've got 3 Worlds competitors and a podcast editor. Sorry. Notorious is a very good player that was one match away from Worlds, I think twice now. I think a top 4 last season and
Oof.
a finals appearance this season.
Yeah, we'll see how many they can push out this time. We'll see if they can also take home the coveted Team League crown as well. And this leads us to our final team, the Friends of Eternal team.
So this season, the Friends of Eternal is fielding Tempest Dragon King, Chrissier, Bottle Gin, and Alcide Bava, and of course myself. And on our bench, we have Snowbird, Jolters, and Warm Ferret. So I think that Friends of Eternal being an open team, causes people to shy away from it, but we've definitely got some great players here. I think TDK is someone that has a ton of top 64s, and just like people haven't really paid attention because he tends to get eliminated pretty early. But I think like if we're talking about peripheral stats, that's a pretty good one, is making lots of top 64. So I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks out this season. Chrissier has been one match away from qualifying for Worlds and generally has like a really good outlook on improving and getting better at the game. And Biljin is just a great player that I would keep on running into on ladder. And of course, we've got myself. 20 plus top 64s, World Appearance 2020. The most influential deck builder in the history of Eternal. Okay, maybe not. The person who is currently ruining the throne metagame, Sunyveil. So yeah, I'm so far working with these people. I'm really optimistic about how we're going to do. I think that we've been doing a lot to get better at the game and doing a lot of coordination. Anyway, those are the teams. To recap, we have Team Invoke Lethal, the Snowfort, which is perhaps the TBC B team, the Barbarian Camp, which is the TBC A team, CSB, the Misplay Teal Trapezoids, the Misplay Red Rhombuses, Eternal Titans, Team Eternal Journey, We Stream Games 1 and We Stream Games 2, Team Rankstar, and Friends of Eternal. So that is 12 teams, and we're going to have Swiss pairings for the 9 open tournaments that we have this year.
I bet you're so glad, Sonny, that it was an even number of teams that applied and not an odd number of teams.
Yeah, that would have been garbage. Not gonna lie. Yes, it is definitely good.
Oh my goodness.
I was kind of hoping that there would be exactly 10 teams, but because then we could just do like a round robin. But hey, I'm definitely happy with 12 teams.
More is better than less, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely a fan of more people participating. I mean, there are 60 people on active rosters. That's fantastic. And, a whole host of other people that are participating, but, are in reserve, basically. So that's awesome. That's awesome to see. I love it. We have our round 1 pairing, so that's going to be determined this week. We have Team Invoke Lethal against Eternal Titans, Team Eternal Journey against Team Snowfort, the Barbarian Camp against We Stream Game 1, We Stream Games 2 against CSB, the Misplay Teal Trapezoids against Team Rankstar, and finally Friends of Eternal versus the Misplay Red Rhombuses. So this is exciting. I'm looking forward to it. No team kills in round 1, which is always nice. Yeah, if you want to see any of this information, it should be on a page on themisplay.com. They've generously agreed to help out with basically having like a permanent URL for this information on what the standings are, what the results are, and etc. So go check it out. It'll be in the description.
Yeah, and this is a fantasy league. There's Swiss rounds, and it's still basically the better you do in the day 2 in the top 64, the more points you get for your team. Unless you outright win the tournament, it'll be based on who accumulates the most points. So the more players they have that do well, the higher their points, and the better their chances are of winning the week's fantasy league.
Yeah, and there's going to be a playoff at the end of it, which would be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, so before we sign off for today, just a few dates to remember. This is also available. There will probably be a link to the Misplay calendar. They have an event calendar on their site. Today has just been like the Misplay shill, basically. They're doing a lot of great stuff for the community.
No, they have not given us a bunch of tokosses under the table.
So, of course, March 23rd, which is in just a few days, we have the release of Stormbreak and the new cards that will be added to Expedition and Throne. On March 26th, which is next Friday, we have both a Tuesday night Eternal for Expedition and the beginning of the first open of the season, which will be Throne. So both formats that day. And on March 30th, which is a Tuesday, we have another Tuesday night Eternal for Expedition. Good luck and have fun, everyone. All right. Thank you to our patrons for supporting FECast and all things Friends of Eternal. Without these people, well, we probably wouldn't be doing this week in and week out. So shout out to Pre-Ribbon, Work Done Son, Chamomilk, Chrissier, D-Dub, and Yeast Out. If you would like to donate, you can go to patreon.com/Friends of Eternal. Also, a huge shout out to SRFS, our editor and the tournament organizer for Tuesday Night Eternal. Lots of great things wouldn't be possible without them. And finally, a shout out to our own Discord, the Friends of Eternal Discord. The Piloting Club's been really active. There's been a lot of great discussion there, which will be useful if you want to improve your game. And, with tournaments coming up, that should be what you're focusing on, right? Getting better and affecting the things that you can control. So be sure to be in the Friends of Eternal Discord if you're not already there. All right, that'll be it for today. We will see you shortly on Tuesday. For all the cards that are released in the new set, we'll be going over every single one of them, and we'll be doing a metagame rundown for the upcoming tournaments. All right, thank you for listening. See you next time, and until then, we'll see you in the Friend Zone. The Friends of Eternal Discord is the best place on the internet to get better at Eternal. We have players of all skill and experience levels all happy to help each other out on basically any aspect of their Eternal gameplay. And making all this possible is our generous patrons over at patreon.com. If you'd like to support FECast or Friends of Eternal, consider donating at patreon.com/Friends of Eternal. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, we'll see you in the Friend Zone.